Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Nice to see you. Thank you for clicking on me today. If you're new, my name is Leah, and this channel is about all things fashion. I'm still very new to sewing, and the most I've done is like little DIY projects, altering things, hems, dots, that sort of thing. So today, I'm going to be taking you guys with me as I do my very first full sewing project from scratch. I'm going to be making a dress, a pinafore dress. So I'm going to take you with me from here. I'm going to show you the plan, the design that I'm trying to do. I'll show you the cool fabric that I got and just take you with me as I sew this. I can't really say it's a tutorial because I might make some mistakes, I'm new to this, but we are doing this journey together. Hopefully this motivates you to try to make something, and I guess we'll see at the end how it comes out. So let's go. The very first thing I did was to do a little drawing of the vision I had in mind for the dress, so that I could have it on paper and so you guys could see as well. It's going to be a very loose fitting shift dress with a round neck and tie straps at the shoulders. The front will be quite low since it's a pinafore dress and it's meant to be worn with something else underneath it. I'm also going to put in side seam pockets and a front chest pocket because really, what is a dress without pockets? My main inspiration came from two videos by the Essentials Club on YouTube, one being her tie strap jumpsuit video and her mini slip dress video. I'll put the links to both of those videos down below so that you could check them out yourselves. Then, using a dress I already had as a guide, I measured to see how long I wanted the straps, where I wanted the bottom of the neckline to be, the size of the armholes, and the overall length of the dress. I also measured my waist and my hips just to make sure that I left enough room when I made the pattern. And also I made note of where I wanted the pockets to sit. The next thing was to start drawing up my pattern pieces. Now, this honestly took me an unreasonably long time, but that's mostly because I was being a perfectionist and I kept going back to make changes. So I started out with the same dress as a guide, but I really could have made the pattern without it because it was such a simple design. The front and the back of the dress are exactly the same, so I made the pattern for one half of one side, or a quarter of the whole dress. I realized that was the best way to make sure the dress was perfectly symmetrical, particularly around the neckline. So using my measurements that I took, I drew out the straps, the neckline, the armholes, and the skirt of the dress. The skirt I ended up making a bit more A-line than straight because I didn't want to have too much extra fabric around my arms, but I still wanted it to fit around my hips. Then, using the pockets on another dress as a guide, I drew and cut out my pocket pattern as well. So I have, after a long time of working on it and measurements and stuff, I have the pattern for a quarter of my dress, and it's not the full length, but I'm going to cut out 4 of these for the front and back panels. I'm not sure if my fabric is wide enough because I was planning to originally just fold it and cut the front and the back as 2 whole panels, but I don't think my fabric is wide enough to do the full front panel and back panel, so I'm probably just gonna have to do 4 panels instead. And I have pocket patterns, so I'm gonna do 4 pockets, and when I finish cutting out and looking at like how the top is, then I will do the front pocket pattern. I'm going to use the same pattern to do the interfacing for the straps on the top as well. So yeah, on to the next part, fabric cutting. The fabric that I'm using for the dress is this beautiful bright orange linen. It was actually an older fabric that the store had had for a long time, so the color was faded along the crease, but it was on discount because of that, and it was actually exactly what I had in mind for the dress, so I got it anyway. Since linens could shrink when you wash them, I went ahead and pre-washed the fabric before I started to cut out the pieces. I spent some time figuring out the best way to cut the pieces as to not waste any fabric, and when I was satisfied, I started pinning down the first piece. I had cut the pattern shorter than the actual length to save paper, but I made sure to add the extra length when laying it down on the actual fabric. I also cut the pattern pieces without any seam allowance, so I made sure to leave a quarter to half inch seam allowance around the paper when I was cutting. Then, I used the first two panels I cut out as a guide to cut out the other two. Since linens are good on both sides, I didn't have to worry about right side and wrong side. But keep in mind, when you're cutting two layers at the same time, you want to make sure you have your right sides facing each other. After that, I used the top part of one of those panels to draw and cut out my two pieces of interfacing, which just included from the straps up until under the bust area. The last thing to cut out was the four pocket pieces, and as you can see, I really did my best to finesse it and save as much fabric as possible. So, after I finished cutting out all the pieces of fabric for the dress, I took a little break, as you can see. I'm going to show you the pieces that I cut, and then we are going to burn the midnight oil and hopefully finish sewing this dress tonight. I think the assembly should be pretty quick, but I also thought doing the pattern would be really quick as well, so we'll see. So I have four panels, quarter panels, so two for the front and two for the back. That makes up the body of the dress. Then there are two pieces that just go up to just under the bust and the straps, which will be interfacing for the inside of the dress. That interfacing will give the straps a nicer finish, so instead of having to hem on the inside of the strap, it'll be just one clean, you know, pocket of fabric. And then, on that note, I have four pocket pieces for the side pockets. I'm not entirely sure if I'm still going to do the front chest pocket. One of the main reasons I was going to do the front pocket is just to make the front more interesting. But if I have a stitch running on the middle, I feel like that might be interesting enough. So we will see as we go. And now we're going to dive into the stitching. So, the first thing I did here was to pair up the pieces that would be the front and back panels of the dress. I pinned them together along the straight edge and ran a straight stitch along that line. Afterwards, I also did a zigzag stitch to seal up the edges and keep them from fraying. After that, I opened those out and ironed the seams flat, giving me my front and back pieces. Having done that, the next step is to attach the interfacing. So, this is the point where I realized the mistake that I made. Back when I was cutting the fabric, I used the main pieces as a template for the interfacing, forgetting that I left seam allowance on the main pieces in order to join them in the middle. The interfacing, on the other hand, was just one piece, so I didn't need that extra 1 inch, and that resulted in my interfacing being wider than the dress body. So what I ended up doing was sewing along the middle of the interfacings to remove the excess and to make them fit the main body piece. I also did a zigzag stitch across the bottom edge of both interfacings to seal the raw edge. Then I pinned the interfacing to the body, right sides together of course, and stitched around all the edges, only leaving the bottom open. I trimmed the excess fabric off the edges of the straps to make sure that they would look as sharp as possible when I turned them. And then it was time for the fun part! I got my paintbrush and I used it to help me push out the straps and turn everything inside out, making it sit as clean and as crisp as possible. At that point, I was really starting to see my vision come to life. And you could just tell how absolutely thrilled I was that everything was coming together. It is just about 5 a.m. and I just finished doing the interfacing on both the front and the back, So I'm going to press them and then I'm going to do the pockets. And I don't know if I will get it finished. I may just go to bed soon. So we'll see. After I pressed the straps, I got to work on attaching the pockets. I measured where I wanted them to sit. Then I lined up the straight edge of each pocket piece with the side of the dress. I attached the two pocket pieces to the front of the dress first, then lined up the back of the dress on top and attached the other two pieces to make sure that they matched up perfectly. Then, for each of the four pieces, I stitched them onto the main panel, then turned them out and ran a top stitch to make sure they stayed inside the dress. Hello again, dear people. Welcome to night number 2 of this sewing project. I've washed my hair, we are back to curly. We are hoping that this is the last night of this project. All that's left to do is to stitch up the side seams and to do the hem, and hopefully nothing unforeseeable happens, everything goes smoothly, and after the next couple of clips you're going to be able to see the final finished product. So thank you for sticking with me up until this point. Let's jump into the last phase. For the side seams, I just lined up the front and the back, right sides together, and pinned them together. Now, when you're sewing the side seams on something with side pockets, there's a bit of maneuvering involved. You start by going straight down the side seam, but then you're going to stop at the edge of the pocket opening. You're going to turn and sew all the way around the edge of the pocket. When you get to the bottom of the pocket, you just sew straight down the rest of the way. And of course, I did that on both sides. And the very last thing, and honestly, my absolute least favorite part of any sewing project, the hem. So I just folded in a 1/4 inch and then up again another inch around the bottom. Ironed it flat and then stitched all the way around. And that was it. Y'all, I am so happy with how this dress came out, and I hope you are too. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and I hope you feel inspired. Thank you so much for being here with me today. See you next time. Bye.